Welcome to Naptime Sports Talk Podcast. We are two dads talking sports during nap times. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode. Welcome back to Naptime Sports Talk Podcast. For episode 11, we are going to do a first-round NFL mock draft. So, Zach, before we start, is there anything that you'd like to go over at all?
Yeah, so I do want to bring up one thing, and we're going to start the podcast off on kind of a sad note, but we found out this morning that former cornerback Vontae Davis has passed away. It's just seems like a really sad story. I don't know if you watched the Hard Knocks when he was on there with the Dolphins. I think that was 2011 or 2012. Still one of my favorite seasons with him, and that was the year that Chad Johnson was on the Dolphins and ended up getting cut. But, you know, Vontae Davis ended up getting traded that year, and they filmed it all. And the first thing he wanted to do was call his grandmother. And unfortunately, this morning, his grandma was the one that found him dead in his apartment.
Oh, no.
And it was actually in her apartment. So I guess just a little background story on Vontae. I guess his parents were early in his life. I guess his grandmother raised him. His brother is tight end Vernon Davis. So, and it seemed like Vernon Davis, even though he was his brother, seemed like he was more of a father figure to him, being 5 years older. So just thoughts and prayers go out to his grandma and Vernon Davis, because losing him really, really sucks. Going back to his, playing career, very, very good, very, very underrated corner. Multiple-time Pro Bowler. He was a first-round pick out of Illinois. He, going back for me to the Maddens, that was a staple in my childhood growing up. He was 95 overall at one point in Madden. So he was that kind of player. And in my opinion, I still think that he's the best Indianapolis Colts corner to ever play for them. So we lost a good player today. And, yeah, dude, mental illness is no joke. And unfortunately, that's how some stories end. But yeah, just kind of a bad way to start the podcast, but I thought I'd get that out there.
Yeah, for sure. And if people are going through mental illness, just seek out help and support and talk to people, because there are a lot of resources out there for you if you have if you have some mental health issues that you need to take care of. So yeah, very sad story. So rest in peace to Vontae Davis, and thoughts go out to his family, and our prayers are with them.
Yep, absolutely. But switching topics here, this is going to be our last mock before we're going to release one more after this, but we're actually going to release that like right before the draft. So, I mean, we're a little under a month out, and dude, I can't wait to see how this mock draft is going to play out.
Yeah, me too. It is officially April now too, so it is officially draft month as well. So I'm really excited.
Let's go. One of the best months of the entire year. I love draft time. Summer's right around the corner, so let's go.
Well, with the first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC. So I'm sticking with this pick. He's a clear-cut number one quarterback in this draft. He has some of the best arm talent we've seen maybe since Patrick Mahomes. And even Patrick Mahomes wasn't this hyped up coming into the draft.
Yep.
So Caleb Williams definitely will have a nice supporting cast there in Chicago with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and then the acquisition of Keenan Allen. So they're doing everything impossible to make sure that he comes in and he's ready to succeed. They also have the 9th overall pick in this draft, where they could go and add to the offensive line if needed. They could add potentially another wide receiver depending on how the draft unfolds. But yeah, I think Caleb Williams to Chicago is a clear-cut number one. And man, that is going to be scary to see him in Chicago. And if they hit on it, they're going to have their franchise guy for years to come.
Yeah, yep, no doubt about it. Grand Slam pick. I said before, best quarterback prospect I've ever seen. The Chicago Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer in a season in their entire franchise history. I do anticipate him doing that as a rookie with those weapons, as long as everyone stays healthy and Caleb can stay healthy. But absolute home run pick. And I'm going to say it again. I think the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams are a playoff team this upcoming season. So with that being said, with the number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders are taking Jaden Daniels, quarterback, out of LSU. I just think he's the perfect fit there. We've talked about Cliff Kingsbury a million times and the quarterbacks that he's coached. I think that's just a perfect fit. I think that's a big reason why Dan Quinn and those guys went out and got a guy like Cliff Kingsbury. So Jaden Daniels is the new franchise quarterback in Washington. They also have good weapons too. So I anticipate him having one hell of a rookie season.
Yeah, home run pick too. Out of all the places, maybe Chicago's, too, but Washington may be the more ready team right now with just the weapons they have with Jahan Dotson, and they have a pretty solid offensive line.
Yep.
They have a good rushing attack with Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
And I forget who they signed. They've signed someone
Austin
else
Eckler.
at halfback. Austin Eckler, there you
Yep.
go. So, yeah, Washington, Jaden Daniels, watch out
Yep.
because that NFC East just got a whole lot better.
Absolutely.
Well, number 3, I have the New England Patriots on the clock. And, I don't know if we get to draft night and New England's still picking there at number 3, what they'll do. This is a prime spot to trade back, maybe for a team to trade up like the Vikings or another quarterback needy team to trade up in this spot. If I had to guess, I would think the Vikings would have a good shot at getting there. And I just don't think New England's built right now to take their quarterback and plug him in right now, but they could take a guy and potentially have him sit behind Jacoby Brissett to just continue to learn. But looking at other positions, they could go out in the next draft and get their quarterback there too. I'd imagine they'd be picking towards the top in the 2025 draft. So if I was them, I'm going to go out and do something a little different here. I'm going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver at Ohio State. I get my number 1 wide receiver there.
Wow, surprising pick, but I love it. Marvin Harrison Jr., we've said it a ton. Best wide receiver prospect I've seen since Julio Jones, so that's a great pick. I think, like you said, them trading back, especially if Minnesota was willing to give up 3 first-round picks, I think that would be really hard for them to turn down, especially with all the holes that they have. They could have 2 first-round picks this year and 2 first-round picks next year. That's a good way to build a team quickly. So we'll see if they make a move like that, but they took Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3. I like it.
Yep.
So Arizona is here at number 4, and this is a huge trade back spot. So now with Drake May and J.J. McCarthy both on the board and Marvin Harrison off the board, I do think that Arizona would trade back from this spot. I think Minnesota would probably move up here and go get Drake May, but I don't think we're doing trades in our mock. So what I would do here is they're going to take the second best receiver in this draft class, and that is Malik Nabers. I think their number 1 need is wide receiver, and Malik Nabers is definitely a wide receiver 1 in most drafts. Special player. Reminds me a lot of Antonio Brown, like I said, gives Kyler Murray a true number 1 receiver. So we see receivers go back-to-back at 3 and 4. So yeah, I think that's a great pick for the Arizona Cardinals at 4 with Malik Nabers.
I like it a lot. Like I said before in previous episodes, he's definitely not no consolation prize at wide receiver. So, like you said, he would be a clear-cut number 1 in other drafts as well.
Absolutely.
So number 5, the Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock. So I just think that, trading away Keenan Allen, they could go wide receiver routes. They don't have Mike Williams anymore too. So it's like, who the heck is Caleb or Justin Herbert going to be throwing to?
Yes.
That's my number 1 question. They also need to address the offensive line. They could use another offensive tackle potentially. But man, I think the number 1 need right now is just get more pass catchers there for Justin Herbert. So I'm going to select Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. The clear-cut number 1 tight end prospect, maybe one of the best prospects we've seen at tight end in a very long time. He can do it all. He can block, he can catch, and he just has an innate ability to make plays. So go get a big guy that can still add to that run game there in LA and, also have a really good pass catching ability and make a difference in the pass game as well for Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, for absolute perfect fit. And I think Brock Bowers should be a top 5 pick. I think he's a top 5 player in this entire draft. So that's definitely not a reach at all. Definitely a chess piece guy that Jim Harbaugh could use in that offense. You can line him up outside, you can line him inside, you can line him up at tight end. So just a nice chess piece to have. And this is another position here where the Chargers could definitely trade back because they do need offensive line help and they can collect more draft capital. But the guy like Brock Bowers still on the board, and like you said, the receivers being not as good as, most teams in the league, they might have the worst receiving core in the entire NFL. So getting a guy like Brock Bowers is huge.
For sure. And it's a heck of a class to need wide receivers too. So
Exactly. Number 6, the Giants are on the clock here. I still think that their biggest need is wide receiver. They were probably a little nervous that Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors went as high as they did, but they're still able to get Rome Odunze, a guy that in most drafts, dude, he's wide receiver number 1, very special player. I think he's going to fit in perfectly in that Giants offense. They do have Daniel Jones for 1 more year. So now in this draft, with Drake May still on the board, it would be really, really hard for them to pass up on it. But
yeah,
they do need a receiver. I think Rome Odunze is better than all the receivers in next year's draft class, so I think that would play a factor in that. So I'm going to take Rome Odunze with the number 6 pick for the New York Giants.
very nice pick. Very nice pick. Well, with the number 7th pick, I have the Tennessee Titans here sitting on the clock. And based on X or Twitter, a lot of their fans are thinking left tackle. They need a left tackle. That's what they would like, or a wide receiver. I think, they just added in Calvin Ridley and they have DeAndre Hopkins there as well. But man, I think you're sitting here, you can get your potential left tackle of the future, a guy whose ceiling could be Hall of Fame or even just all pro.
Yep.
And the floor is just a really solid starting left tackle. So I'm going to be taking Joe Alt out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's the perfect fit for them. They went Peter Skorowski with their first-round pick last year, so they're just beefing up that offensive line. They got plenty of weapons on the outside now with Calvin Ridley. They got Tony Pollard as a running back now, so I think their missing piece now is that left tackle. So that's a home run pick for the Tennessee Titans there at number 7. But moving on to number 8, I think the Atlanta Falcons are sitting in one of the best spots in this entire draft. They spent tons and tons of money on that offense this year. They kind of get to sit back and relax and see how these top 7 picks unfold, because more than likely these top 7 picks are going to be all offensive players. So the Atlanta Falcons will have their pick of their poison with their number 1 defensive player on the board. And I would assume that's going to be Dallas Turner, defensive end pass rusher from Alabama. Definitely their biggest need. And I think, with a guy like that falling to number 8 because of all these receivers and quarterbacks, going early, I think that's just a home run pick for them, and they're pretty ecstatic there in Atlanta.
No doubt. We mocked him too earlier on in our episodes to Atlanta, so I think that's going to be a prime destination for him there.
Yep, absolutely.
Moving on to the number 9th pick, I have the Chicago Bears are back on the clock. They picked Caleb Williams there with the first overall pick. So now, Zach, I'm looking at the board. We just had the first defensive player go at 8, which is pretty insane to me because usually those defensive guys go a lot higher. But this is a heavy loaded offensive class. So I'm going to be selecting Jared Verse,
Nice.
defensive end. He's going to pair nicely on the opposite side of Montez Sweat. So Jared Verse is a very powerful pass rusher. And man, Montez Sweat, Jared Verse on the ends for Chicago. Look out, they get their quarterback of the future and they get a stud defensive end to build around on defense.
Yeah, the Bears are sitting really nice. They're going to get Caleb at 1, and then at number 9, no matter if Turner falls to him, Verse, like you just picked, or even one of those receivers, they're sitting really, really nice at number 9. Jared Verse, opposite of Montez Sweat. I mean, good luck. Good luck stopping both those guys. I don't know who you're going to double team or, put the tight end out there to chip block one of those guys. So Jared Verse going opposite of Montez Sweat, you can really look at him potentially being defensive rookie of the year in that defense.
No doubt.
But moving on to number 10 here, the New York Jets are on the clock. Now, this is a team that spent a lot of money this offseason on the offensive line. They went out and signed John Simpson, which I would assume would be a starter at guard. They got Tyron Smith. He's definitely going to be their left tackle. But they also traded for Morgan Moses. Now, is Morgan Moses going to be their right tackle going forward? I'm not 100% sure. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the best player available, in my opinion, and that is taking right tackle J.C. Latham out of Alabama. I think he's one of my favorite players in this entire draft. Nasty, nasty offensive lineman. I've said this before, but I think he could be a top 5 right tackle in the NFL as a rookie. So pairing him opposite of Tyron Smith, they really improved that offensive line. And the number one thing in New York is you got to keep Aaron Rodgers upright. And this is a big, big pickup to do that. So I'm going to take J.C. Latham to the New York Jets. And
I like it. And I'm not sold on Moses being the starting right tackle for them. So I think Latham would be a home run pick.
yeah, 100%.
Well, we're sitting here, Zach, number 11, the Vikings are on the clock.
Yes.
And if this happened, I don't think this is going to the way it's going to fall.
Yep.
I think if they want one of these guys, they're going to have to move up. But we have our pick here. We can take Drake May.
Yep.
We can take J.J. McCarthy.
Yep.
Or we could take Michael Penix Jr.
Yes.
And I think if this is how the board fell, I think this is the guy the Vikings wanted, and that is Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina.
Yep.
Like we spoke before, he would fit perfectly in the KOC offense. His ability to hit the crossing routes is something that he consistently did in college. He has really good deep ball. He's still developing and growing as a player, which is really enticing to me and exciting to me.
Yep.
I think, like we said before, he could benefit from sitting a little bit too. Perfect situation. We have Sam Darnold to start the season, and then whenever Drake May is ready, you unleash him, let him go. So I would be very excited if we ended up with Drake May here at number 11. Like I said, I think we'll have to move up to get his talent.
Yep, and I totally agree. If somehow this is how the draft played out, the Vikings would be sprinting to the podium with that card. I think they want Drake way more than even Jaden Daniels, if I had to assume. So if a team like the Patriots actually took Marvin Harrison Jr., I think they would definitely make a trade with the Arizona Cardinals and forward to get Drake May. But somehow Drake May falls to 11 in this draft, and that is a home run pick. Like you said, I would like to see him sit here, but either way, Vikings fans should be ecstatic because you have your franchise quarterback. And I think the highest quarterback that they've ever taken was Dante Culpepper at 11. So it's kind of funny that they're taking Drake May at 11 too. So absolute home run pick, and I love that. But moving on to the Denver Broncos. Now the board plays out really well for them too, because I think their number one need is a franchise quarterback. Right now their starting quarterback is Jarrett Stidham, and I don't think Sean Payton feels confident enough to play this entire season with him at quarterback. Well, guess who's still on the board there at number 12, and that's J.J. McCarthy. So that's what I'm going to take for the Denver Broncos. The Broncos do not have their second-round pick, so trading up to get one of these guys is going to be a lot harder for them than like a team like Minnesota or the Raiders. So if the draft actually fell like this and JJ fell right in their lap, I think Sean Payton would be ecstatic, and they would definitely make that pick. So I'm going to take J.J. McCarthy to the Denver Broncos at 12.
All right, I like it. He just kind of looks like a Bronco to me, too.
Yeah, he definitely does. I completely agree with that.
Well, here we go, Raider
Let's
Nation.
go.
You are on the clock at 13, and Zach is letting me make this pick for y'all.
Yep.
So here we go. Hopefully I don't disappoint.
We'll see. We'll see if you get boos or cheers.
There's a lot of, there's so much talent sitting here on the board. And like you said, right now we can't make trades in this mock.
Yes.
And if I was the Raiders, I would maybe think about taking, best available or best player available on their board at 13, and then potentially trading up and back into the first round for a quarterback. But we don't have that potential here in this draft or possibility. So I'm going to stick there, and I'm going to be taking your boy, Spencer Rattler. No, I'm just joking. Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. So put Michael Penix right there in the Raider offense. And, I think people are sleeping on him because, people say, oh, he played versus easy teams all year long. And Man, I just don't agree with that because every single game I watched besides the Michigan game, the championship game, he just impressed me the whole time.
Yeah.
He was making deep ball throws. He was just sitting there in the pocket, picking teams apart. And man, he impressed me more than JJ McCarthy. I think a lot of people are falling in love with JJ McCarthy's personality and, the potential that what he could be. He is a proven winner there at Michigan, didn't lose many games, but man, I think Michael Penix is going to be a first round quarterback and he's going to go in the top 20 at this point, especially the way he threw the ball at his pro day as well. So
Yeah, definitely. And if this happens, I know we're going to be watching the draft together. I'll be standing up, throwing out a couple fist pumps, dude. I'm going to be super happy with this pick. Um, you know how I feel about Michael Penix. He is my quarterback 3 right now behind Caleb and Jaden. Big fan of his. When Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce had their introduction press conference, the one thing Tom Telesco really emphasized was he wants to push the ball down the field. And which quarterback in this entire draft pushes the ball down the field, better than Michael Penix? I don't think anyone does. So I think he really,
yeah,
I think he really fits what we can do. I think he's one of the most pro-ready quarterbacks. So you can play him right away as a rookie, and a guy that I think he would just look so cool on the Raiders too. So, and then another thing about taking a quarterback at 13, I'm definitely warming up to it for sure. Especially like he ran that 4.56 at his pro day, which is a lot faster than a lot of people thought. A lot of people think of him as kind of a sitting duck in the pocket, and he's not that. I think he just chooses to do that because he's such a good pocket passer. So I do think that he's going to go in the top 20. So if the Raiders want him, don't even risk, trading back and hoping that he's there. Just take him at 13. And the 2 biggest needs that we have is offensive line. Well, this offensive line class, majority of the scouts think that this is the best draft in the last 20 plus years. So you can get a nice day 1 starter in the second round. And then you look at I think our second biggest need is corner. We need a number 1 corner. And you look at free agency, and there's still guys like Adoree Jackson's out there, Xavier Howard, JC Jackson and Stephon Gilmore. And I think Patrick Peterson's still out there too. So those guys you can sign to a 1-year deal, and you can go out there and play them and get your quarterback one next draft or next off season. So I think, like I said, I would be super, super pumped if they took Penix at 13. Hopefully that happens, but absolutely love that pick. I'm going to give you an A+ on it.
Awesome. Just real quick, I would love to if Penix was a Viking. So I would even pick him at 11 if he was there. If Drake May and JJ McCarthy went before him, so I'd be really happy. And if he end up in Las Vegas for the Raiders, that'd be really cool as well. So
yeah, and I would feel comfortable taking him at 11 too. I just think he's going to be one hell of a pro, and with all those weapons that the Vikings have, I mean, how is he not going to be just a stud quarterback?
Yeah, no doubt.
But moving on to the Saints at 14, their number 1 need, in my opinion, is still offensive line. I think they need to keep Derek Carr upright. Derek Carr actually played very well for him. He threw almost 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and I think 8 interceptions. So if you look at his stats, he played really well for the Saints. They drafted that Trevor Penning from, I think he was Northern Iowa, in the first round a couple of years ago, and he's been an absolute bust. So they need to go out and find their new franchise left tackle. And I think Alu Fashanu from Penn State would be a perfect fit there. You can plug him in. Elite pass blocker. Needs a little work on the run game, but put him at left tackle. Keep Derek Carr upright. I really like that pick for him, and that's what I'm going to take for the Saints.
Nice pick. He's got those 8.5-inch hands, so maybe he'll end up being bust for this thing down there. But
he might be with that hand size, man. You never know.
Yeah, no, that's just a joke. We don't wish any player to be a bust.
No,
obviously, we want to see these guys. That's one of my favorite parts of the draft is seeing their dreams come true. So
yeah. Unless they go to the Chiefs. If they go to the Chiefs, they can be a bust.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. I just have my feelings about the Saints.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I totally agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, sitting here at number 15, the Indianapolis Colts are on the clock. There are a lot of players defensively here sitting here as well, and they could go DB. They could, need another cornerback. They could maybe find another wide receiver to add to their offense to give Richardson another weapon. And man, Brian Thomas Jr.
Man,
out of LSU is just staring at me right now, dude. He just give me a little stare down. He's like, pick me, pick
yeah,
me.
that's a perfect
And you
fit.
know what? I'm gonna give him his wish because give Anthony Richardson another weapon. Brian Thomas, home run hitter. You know, I think, like you said before, your comp for him is Randy Moss.
Yeah,
You
yep,
know,
yep.
so he kind of reminds you of Randy Moss. That says a lot. I speak volumes, but
Yep.
man, I just watching his tape, how fluid he is with his route running, and man, Jaden Daniels had some studs there at LSU.
Yeah, he definitely did. And if you look at Anthony Richardson, I mean, the thing that people were so amazed with last offseason was his arm strength. He's got one of the biggest arms in the entire NFL. Well, why not go out there and get one of the best deep ball threats? Or he is the best deep ball threat in this draft. But I think as a rookie, he's still going to be one of the best deep ball threats in the entire NFL. So let Anthony Richardson chuck that ball 70 yards downfield. Let Brian Thomas Jr. with that 4.33 speed run right underneath that ball, catch it for sticks. I think that's a big time playmaker for him and something that they need. You look at a guy like Michael Pittman Jr. He's more of a possession guy. Move the chains on third down. So to go out and get a big time speed threat on that outside, I think would be huge for Anthony Richardson. So great pick.
Yeah, they'd have a really nice tandem there with Pittman Jr., Downs, and then now Thomas Jr.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Colts fans should absolutely be ecstatic about that pick. Number 16, we're moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. I still think their biggest need is just kind of beefing up that offensive line. They lost starting guard Damon Lewis, who got a huge deal in Carolina. I think that was like 4 years, 50 plus or close to 60 mil if I remember right. So I still think their biggest need is offensive line. So I'm going to go out and take Troy Fontenot. If I have no idea how to pronounce his last name, but the guy from Washington, he can play tackle, he can play guard. I think at the next level, he's more of a guard. So they could just take him, plug him into that Damian Lewis's role, and I don't think he really missed a beat, to be honest.
Yeah, he could potentially be an all-pro type guard too. So he's a guy we talked about last episode. Always has a crop top with his little gut hanging out. So
Yeah, yep,
keep him in Seattle. That'd be a really nice pick there for the
yep.
Seahawks. Well, sitting here at number 17, we haven't had any D-backs go yet, man.
Yeah,
And,
it's crazy.
The Jaguars, man, they have the needs in the trenches, I just feel still. So thinking here, I think they could use maybe a center. And I don't know if this is too high for him, but he is one of my favorite players in this draft, and that's Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. So I'm going to take him right there, give Trevor Lawrence his center of the future to work with. One of the most powerful, most physical centers in this class. The way he handled himself down at the Senior Bowl we talked about before, he locked down the big interior defensive tackles with ease. So I think that's something that's very exciting to add there in Jacksonville, and they get their center of the future.
Yeah, great pick. I think Jackson Powers Johnson, if I had to guess, I think he's the safest player in this entire draft. I have no idea how he could possibly go out there and be a bust. He's just dominant against the run, dominant against the pass. So there you go. You got your center for the next, decade. So great pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals at 18. Now I'm not really sure what they're going to do. Now, they still need offensive line. They did go out and sign Trent Brown to play right tackle for them. So I think their bookend tackles are good with Trent Brown, and then they got Orlando Brown on the left side. So you got two Mattis at tackle. So I think they're good there. What I'm looking at here is T. Higgins. What's going to happen with T. Higgins? T. Higgins is probably going to look for a contract close to $100 million. They still have to pay Jamar Chase. So are they really going to pay two receivers $100 million? I don't think so. So I would not be surprised if T. Higgins is a draft day trade, kind of like A.J. Brown was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And, they're going to get a nice haul from him. I would assume that they would get, probably a one, definitely a two. But I would assume that they would get a one back in return. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that they're going to look for the wide receiver of the future. And I think that they're going to take, or I would take, A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas. And the main reason why I'm taking him here is because my comp for him is T. Higgins. I think
Yeah.
they play a lot alike. So you get a guy like AD Mitchell, you can reset that rookie contract and let T. Higgins go get $100 million from a different team. And I don't think your team really misses a beat because I think AD Mitchell is his potential is definitely T. Higgins, and I think it's just a fantastic fit there in Cincinnati.
That would be a home run pick there for the Bengals. That to their wide receiver corp, like you said, the comp is T. Higgins. That's kind of funny, They get a guy similar skill set to T. Higgins to replace himself. So
Yeah, yep.
well, sitting here at 19, the LA Rams are on the clock, and man, like I said before, man, no D-backs have gone yet, Zach. Like this is kind of crazy.
This
Sitting here
is
at 19.
crazy.
Oh, they haven't had a guy playing DB or cornerback position there since Jalen Ramsey. They traded him last year. I believe it was last year, right? This is his first year in Miami.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, so I think they need to go out there and replace him because they sure missed him last year. And I'm taking my favorite cornerback in this class. That's Quinion Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo.
Nice.
So
Really,
he's
really
got
like that
incredible,
pick.
for sure. He's got incredible ball skills, like we said before. His bench press was close up there with some defensive linemen, which was crazy. I think it was like the low, maybe 20s or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, man, you're going to get your lockdown guy who's got incredible ball skills. Took 3 pick sixes to the house last year in one game, which is insane. I don't think I've ever seen something like that before. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would know that the Rams would be very excited adding him to their DB room.
Yeah, and they just signed Tre'Davious White, but I don't think that should steer him away from taking a quarterback in the first round. It's still a huge need for him. Quinion Mitchell, one of the most athletic freaks in this entire draft, so that's a great pick for him. But moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick 20. Now this pick's probably going to surprise a lot of people. I would have taken Jackson Powers Johnson if he was there, but he just got taken a couple picks ahead of me there at 17 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So some people might think this is a reach. I've been seeing some mocks with this name in the first round. He's really climbing up the draft boards, and that is center Zach Frazier from West Virginia. Last year looking at the Steelers, they had Mason Cole was their starting center, and he was terrible. And I'm pretty sure that he's a free agent. So as of right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers don't even have a starting center. So you're going to get a guy like Zach Frazier. He can also play guard too, but he's obviously going to be your center at the next level. And, it's a huge upgrade over Mason Cole, who they had last year. So I think that would be a really good pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going to take Zach Frazier, center, out of West Virginia there at pick 20.
I like it. Like I spoke in the last episode here, he was in my top 10 for offensive linemen. So just another very physical center who I think, like you said, will make an immediate impact there in Pittsburgh.
Yep, absolutely.
So sitting here at number 21, and man, if I was the Miami Dolphins, I would just be completely ecstatic right now because they are getting a player that I think is a top 2 offensive tackle in this class, and that is Talisi Fuanga out of Fuanga State. So I love saying his name, man. It's a lot of fun, but dude, just a complete animal. Very powerful offensive tackle. And like I said before, man, once he gets his hands on you, good luck because you ain't moving anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. And these guys are probably the second most excited team in the entire draft. How this draft has fallen. Getting a guy like that at 21 is absolutely insane. They just lost Robert Hunt to the Carolina Panthers on $100 million deal. And I think they're actually going to upgrade that position, as crazy as that sounds, there at guard. So grand slam pick for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, do you think, because I think he'll probably play offensive tackle, but maybe he could move into guard.
Yep.
What do you think on that?
So, and that's the thing. That's what's nice about him is he played guard and tackle at Oregon State. So he could play both. Would they play him at right tackle? I guess I don't really know who their right tackle is off, without looking it up. So maybe they could, but I just think that Robert Hunt, how he's gone, they really didn't fill that hole. Getting a nasty guy like that at guard, he's never allowed a sack in college. I don't know. It's either way, it's nice having a guy like him because you can plug him at either offensive guard or offensive tackle. So it works out, really well for him.
Yeah, he's got the versatility there. He can, like you said, he can move inside if needed.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Before we move on to the next pick,
Yep.
if you're ever having a bad day, just say Fuwanga, because that's it just puts a smile on my face when I say it.
Dude, and I struggled saying that last podcast, but Fuwanga, I think I got it down now, so we should be good to go going forward. But that is a fun name to say, no doubt about it.
Little shout out to the movie Elf.
Yeah, exactly. All right, pick number 22. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. I think this is a big trade back position if a guy like Michael Penix somehow falls to 22. You and I both just discussed it. We both think that he's going to be a top 20 pick, so he's probably not going to be there at 22. Another thing about the Eagles, Kelsey, their center retired, so that's a huge loss for him. And we've seen Jackson Powers-Johnson get off the board, and now Zach Frazier's gone too. So what do they do if they stay put? Now, what I would do is I'm going to take safety Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota.
Wow.
Yep, I've talked about him in the past. I think he's a top 15 player in this entire draft. I don't think he's getting talked enough. I don't think he's getting the praise that he really deserves. Is he going to be a first-round pick? If I had to put money on it, I'm going to say no, he's not. I don't think he's going to go in the first round. But what I would do here is take him at 22. I think he's going to be a superstar safety at the next level. And I know they just signed Gardner Johnson. They got him back. But what's nice about Gardner Johnson is he's an elite nickel corner. So you could slide him down, let him play nickel corner. I think their safeties last year were Sidney Brown and Reed Blankenship. So Tyler Nubin's an upgrade over both those guys. So that's who I'm going to take at 22, Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota.
I love it. You know what? He could be a guy that goes a lot higher than people think.
I hope so, because he's a superstar.
No doubt. If you had to just say real quick, who do you think was better coming out of college, him or Antoine Winfield Jr.?
I'm going to say Tyler Nubin.
Okay.
I think a lot of people would probably say Winfield because he's a little more versatile. He could play all over the field. And Antoine Winfield Jr. played like the best safety in the NFL this past season. So it's really hard for me to say that. But
he is
definitely a stud, superstar safety. But just going back and watching Tyler Nubin games, him in coverage, him blitzing off the line. This is another guy that you can move all over the field. I think Tyler Nubin, has potential to be even better than Antoine Winfield Jr. at the next level, which is insane to say because Winfield has been killing it.
No doubt. Vikings at 23. We're back on the clock.
Yep.
And man, if this happened, I would just be doing cartwheels.
I know where you're going.
So one of my favorite defensive linemen in this class is sitting there.
Yeah.
The guy that we need at interior D-tackle to make a difference. I'm trying to draw this out to make it a little more dramatic here.
I love it.
And that is Byron Murphy II out of Texas, man. I would be so pumped if we ended up getting Byron Murphy II at 23 and Drake May at 11. Obviously, that's probably a pipe dream, but man, right now, I'm just ready to roll with the Vikes. So,
yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine if that happens. Vikings fans should be freaking running down the street screaming because that's one of the best traps you could possibly have. Getting Drake May and Murphy. I still think defensive tackle for you guys is a massive need. You guys have Harrison Phillips, but I think after that, like, who's going to be your other nose tackle? Like, is it going to be Tillery? Sure. Who's it going to be? Someone's going to have to step in that role and play. But if you get a guy like Murphy at 23, which I don't even know if he's going to be there at 23, but if he is, I mean, home run pick. And Vikings fans, that's an A++ draft right there.
No doubt.
But moving on here to the Dallas Cowboys at 24, their biggest need is still clearly wide receiver. Right now their top three wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Jalen Tolbert. They got rid of Michael Gallup. He wasn't really a factor last year at all, so that's not a huge loss. But just looking at their wide receiver too from last year, Brandon Cooks, he finished the season with 600 yards, but he had 173 of them in one game against the Giants. So they definitely need a wide receiver number 2. I think the best fit out opposite of CeeDee Lamb would be a guy that could stretch the field. So
Mhm.
CeeDee Lamb can eat a little more down low. And I think Xavier Worthy, keeping him in Texas there at 24 would be a home run pick. You can't put a corner one-on-one with Xavier Worthy with that speed, that 4.21 speed, record-breaking speed. He's going to torch you every time. So you're going to have that safety up on top. So you got two guys right off the bat that have to worry about Xavier Worthy, and that's going to free up CeeDee Lamb a lot in that offense. So CeeDee Lamb put up historic numbers this year for the Dallas Cowboys, had a crazy season, and with a guy like Xavier Worthy on the opposite side, I think he can even take his game to another level. So I'm going to take Xavier Worthy there at 24.
Keep him at Texas, or keep him down in Texas, and watch
Yep.
out for the Cowboys, man.
Yep. No doubt.
Sitting here at number 25, I have the pleasure of picking for the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers have some offensive line, needs, I would say, after letting Bakhtiari go. And man, this, like I said before, this is a heck of a class, need offensive tackle. So I'm going to pick Amarius Mims,
Yep.
offensive tackle to Georgia. Just a mammoth, dude.
Yep.
6 foot. I think he's like, what, 6'8", maybe 350 pound plus at least.
Yep.
So, a guy that we say is an absolute dog. I just love his size and how he handled himself for his top talent in the SEC. He's going to be a lockdown guy there at the tackle position. And man, the Packers just keep getting better.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he is definitely an absolute dog, and he has that 7'2" wingspan. So, defensive ends, he just swallows them up with that size and that wingspan. So that's a great pick there for a Packers. And now that Bakhtiari isn't there anymore, that's definitely a need for him. So great pick for the Green Bay Packers. Moving on to number 26 here. Now this is crazy. The Buccaneers' number one need, my opinion, is still a cornerback. They have guys like Zion McCollum, Jamal Dean, Josh Hayes. Casual NFL fans probably have never heard of any of those three. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give him another corner. And it's pretty crazy that this guy is still on the board, unless I missed it, because it's kind of surprising that this guy is still here. Terrion Arnold is going to go here at 26, which would blow my mind because a lot of people think he's the number one corner in this entire draft. He can play. He can play all over the field. He can play nickel, outside. He even played some safety at Alabama. So, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they like that versatility on defense, especially with guys like Antoine Winfield Jr. Well, you're going to get another one in Arnold. So I'm going to take him there at 26.
Man, what a pick that would be. What a steal.
Steal.
That's great value there at 26 for Tampa.
Yeah, I don't think that going into it, they're going to assume a player like that is still on the board. So they would be over the moon happy with that.
No doubt. Well, moving on to the 27th pick, you have the Arizona Cardinals back on the clock. So they picked Malik Neighbors at number 4, wide receiver out of LSU. And now, I think potentially they would could get a guy here, Zach, who people are kind of forgetting about, and that's Johnny Newton out of Illinois.
Yes.
I think he'll be an outstanding interior defensive lineman in the NFL. Man, you go watch his tape, and he gets after the quarterback. He's good in the run. And, man, I think he would just be a home run pick there for Arizona. They get a guy on offense. They get a stud on defense. And they just keep continuing to improve their team.
Yeah, and like you said, people are kind of forgetting about him. I thought like as soon as the season ended, I thought he was probably the best defensive tackle. And now he's kind of fallen off the board a little bit. I think Murphy is ahead of him. But if you look at Newton play, I mean, put on his highlights, he's got a little Aaron Donald. He looks like Aaron Donald, just the way he's built. He's not that tall. He kind of just squeezes by centers and guards and can really rush the quarterback. So I really like Newton there at 27, and that's a great draft there for the Arizona Cardinals. But moving on here to the Buffalo Bills here at 28. Now, this is a team that really doesn't need a whole lot. They're going to be in contention every year with a quarterback like Josh Allen. But I'm going to go wide receiver. I think that's a need for him. Gabe Davis is gone to Jacksonville. Talking about a guy like Stephon Diggs, it seems like every offseason there's a little bit of drama. Like, I don't know if he even wants to be in Buffalo. So that's kind of a headache. And let's be honest, the second half of the season there in Buffalo, he was a non-factor. I mean,
Yeah,
he had
definitely.
like 11 or 12 game span where he didn't have 100 yards, and I think he had like 3 touchdowns in like 11 games. So he was a total non-factor. Um, so I would still go receiver here, and this is going to be a selfish pick because I want to see this and I want to see this bad. I would take I would take wide receiver Troy Franklin out of Oregon. Now,
Okay.
is he going to be a first round pick? Like I said before, if I had to put my money on it, probably not, but this is what I would do. I think we talked about him last podcast, how he was kind of handcuffed in that Oregon offense, and he still had 81 catches, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. But Josh Allen loves to push the ball down the field, and I think Troy Franklin at the next level, I think his best skill set is going to be catching those deep balls. He's so freaking explosive. So I'm going to do a selfish pick here, take him at 28 because I just want to see Josh Allen throw deep balls to Troy Franklin for the next 8+ years because I'm a big fan of his game.
We'll have the Detroit Lions on the clock at number 29, and man, if they ended up doing this and sitting here and this guy falls to him, just because of probably his injury history, but the talent-wise, he could be the best, end up being the best edge defender in this whole class, and that's Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. So, man, if the Lions add him, have him and Hutchinson on the edges, oh, watch out.
Yeah, I mean, if a guy like that actually fell that far down, I mean, realistically, I wouldn't even be surprised if the Bears were to take a guy like that at 9. So the fact
Yeah,
that
for sure.
a guy like that could fall to the end of the first round, um, that's a crazy, crazy pick. They did go and sign Marcus Davenport to that bigger contract, but let's be honest,
Oh,
uh,
gosh.
yeah, let's be honest, they definitely still want to find a guy opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So I would
Yeah,
love
no
that
doubt.
pick for the Lions. But moving on here to the Baltimore Ravens, what are they going to do here at pick 30? They lost Patrick Queen to the division rival. He went to the Steelers. So do they take the best linebacker in this draft at 30? That's probably a little rich. They could take Edgerrin Cooper or Wilson. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go pass rusher. I'm just going to take best player available, in my opinion, and they're going to get a guy in Chop Robinson. Um, Out of Penn State there at 30. Like I said a million times, he's more of a raw prospect, but I think a guy in that defense can really, flourish and have a great career. So I'm going to take Chop Robinson there at pick 30.
I could see him for the Ravens, too, and I was wondering if he's going to fall out.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that too. I think earlier in our podcast, I don't remember what episode, but I thought he was going to be a top 20 pick. But if I had to guess now, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think I know we were pretty excited about what he did as pro, or not at the pro day, but the NFL Combine.
Combine,
I
absolutely.
think the process goes on. He's just kind of falling back down, but
Yep.
really good pick there for the value though at number 30, because I think he's going to go anywhere from maybe 25 all the way to early to mid second round myself.
Yeah, and they lost Jadeveon Clowney to the Carolina Panthers too. So
Yep.
maybe a guy that can just plug into that Clowney spot and play well for him.
For sure. We'll have the San Francisco 49ers picking here at 31. Man, we have one of these guys is going to fall out, Zach. Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah,
I could maybe see Kool-Aid falling out potentially.
yeah.
You know,
All three
but
great
yeah,
corners though.
yes, all three great corners. And if one of them fall out, they're definitely going early second round. That's for sure. So,
Yeah. Yep.
looking at San Fran, I know they like their more physical corners. Cooper DeJean, I think he's more of an athletic guy. Nate Wiggins, he's got the size. Kool-Aid McKinstry, though, I think he's the guy that I'm going to take here at number 31. I think he's more of a press cornerback myself, and he'd fit really nicely in there in the San Francisco 49ers defense.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. He just looks like a 49er, I think. So that's
Yeah,
that's
that's very
it's a
true.
really nice fit. And yeah, I mean, for some reason in this mock, man, these corners are really falling. So getting a guy like that at 31, dude, the hell of a pick for the 49ers. The rich just keep getting richer. That defense is elite.
Yeah, no doubt.
But the last pick here in the first round, the Kansas City Chiefs, what are they gonna do? They can kind of go wherever they want because with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they're gonna be in it at the end of the year every year. So,
Mhm.
they did sign Hollywood Brown in free agency, which was a huge get for him. They're going to plug him into that Tyreek Hill role. But within the last couple of days, there's been a little crazy news about Rashee Rice. Got into a little race, a little car accident. Luckily, no one got killed. But who really knows what's going to happen with that? Is he going to get suspended? I'm not really sure. So
Sounded like it's like a 6 vehicle crash that he caused.
yeah, and the video is out there, and it's pretty freaking horrific. So the fact, those guys were hauling some ass, they were driving really fast. It was the middle of the day. Luckily, no one, like I said, no one got killed. That was the huge thing. But
Yeah, for sure.
Rashee Rice ended up fleeing the scene. So he crashed his
Yeah, he
car and
just
he
took
left.
off.
Yeah,
That's
so
not
that's
good. Not
no,
good.
that's an absolute terrible look. So we'll see
I
what
think that's
happens
a
with him.
felony if you leave a crash scene, no
Yep.
matter what.
Yep, absolutely. So that's the thing. Is he going to get suspended? I could definitely see it. Now he was their number one receiver last year. I think he had like 9 touchdowns as a rookie, which was pretty impressive. So I think receiver is still a need for him with the uncertainty with Rashee Rice. Right now looking at the receivers, they have Hollywood Brown, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, and Kadarius Toney, and those receivers are not good. Besides, Hollywood Brown, Sky Moore's kind of been a bust, and Toney can't catch the ball. So I'm going to go receiver here. I'm getting long winded, but I'm going to take wide receiver Keon Coleman. And the main reason why I'm picking him over some other guys is because of his big frame. You know, he's going to see a ton of one-on-ones there in Kansas City. I think that Patrick Mahomes needs a little more help in the red zone. And I think a guy like Keon Coleman, other than Brian Thomas Jr., is the best red zone threat receiver in this draft. So it's going to take a little pressure off Mahomes. It's going to take a little pressure off Travis Kelce. And if Keon Coleman goes there at 32 and he ends up on the Chiefs, you guys should definitely try to get him on your fantasy football team because I could see him catching double-digit touchdowns as a rookie.
Yeah, that'd be a nice pick. And like you said, man, put him in right in the red zone. I think he's gonna be a difference maker right from the get-go. And having Patrick Mahomes throw you some jump balls there, he can put that ball place wherever he wants. So that'll
Yep.
be a very unfortunate pick for just football fans because it just makes
Yeah.
them it's Kansas City Chiefs even better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would hate to. I like Coleman a lot. I really do. He's one of my favorite receivers in this draft. Last podcast I had him pretty high in my top 10. So I would hate to see that, but it just makes too much sense, especially with that red zone factor like we talked about. I just think that would be a really good pick for him.
No doubt. So Zach, just in here, looking at the prospects left, who are some guys that kind of surprised you that we didn't have here in the first round?
So the corners, I was really surprised that there's going to be some stud corners there in the first round. We didn't have any linebackers go. I think Wilson is a day one starter. I think Cooper's a day one starter. And looking at the receivers, man, there's a ton of receivers, good receivers. I mean, McConkley is still on the board there. And, a guy that I think is probably going to be a first round pick. But I mean, if he somehow falls to the second round, I could see teams trying to trade up. I think the Bears had the first pick in the or no, who has the first pick in the second round?
Carolina.
It is Carolina. Okay. Man,
Yeah.
see, Carolina's gonna get a hell of a player there, man.
Yeah,
They're gonna
for
get a
sure.
heck
They
of a
can get,
player.
yeah, it might not look as bad as we thought for them, but like they could add potential, even way better plan number one. But hey, they took their
Yeah.
chance. You got to give it to them. They took their shot at drafting Bryce Young, and it's not a foregone conclusion that he's not going to work out. We'll see what he does with a new quarter or a new coach there.
Yeah. Yep. New regime. I think getting guys, they really beefed up their offensive line, which is huge. He's not going to get beat up as much as he did. I know one of the big things for Bryce Young coming into this draft or this last draft was, his durability concerns because he's so small. But man, he took a beating there in Carolina and stayed healthy for the most part. So yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that, you can label that bust on him quite yet. I still think you got to give everyone 3 years at least before you start,
I
putting
agree with that.
putting that label on guys. So we'll see what he does. He also got a new receiver in Deontay Johnson. So, maybe Deontay Johnson can, resurrect his career a little bit. And they could get a guy like McConkley there, with that first pick in the second round. And I think, he's got all the potential to be a Pro Bowl receiver at the next level.
No doubt, Mr. Smooth Criminal.
He is.
I think
Absolutely.
I think I had him at number 7 on my top 10, but yeah, he's one of my favorite wide receiver prospects in this class.
Yeah, no doubt. But it's fun to do these mock drafts. It's fun to see where these guys go. You know, there's going to be tons and tons of talent there on the second round. So day two is going to be just as fun as day one when it's all said and done. But this is a draft class I really love. It's really offensive heavy, but you know those corners and D linemen are studs too. So awesome draft class.
No doubt about it. And you know, if Vikes fans, Raider Nation, hit us up on Twitter. We also have an Instagram account. Let us know your thoughts after listening, what you thought about our picks there for the Vikes and for the Raiders, and who are some prospects that you all want to let us know. So yeah, we love to hearing everyone's feedback on the podcast, and we hope you're all enjoying.
Yeah, definitely. And just to recap it, you know, the Vikings were able to leave this first round with Drake May and Byron Murphy, which is insane. And the Raiders were able to leave with their franchise quarterback and Michael Penix. So if that happens for both of us, I think both of us are going to leave that first night, you know, very happy and excited about the future for both of our franchises.
For sure. So we'll see, we'll see how this all plays out. But if like I said before, if I had to guess, we'll see if the Vikes trade up in the top 5 to get their guy, and I think that's more likely. But hey, if this is how it played out, we'd be very happy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're going to do one more mock draft when it's all said and done. We're going to do it the week of the draft. So, you know, keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for future episodes. We're going to start breaking down these defensive linemen going forward. Until then, hit those bell icons, get notified when new episodes drop. Just win, baby.
Straight cash, homie. Thank you for listening to our episode. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram and X at Naptime Sports Talk Podcast for content related to the pod. Thank you for the support.